Wow, thank you. I didn't expect to get so emotional coming into this church, even from the first moment, but the memories come flooding back. And having had brunch today with some of the exceptional students from this class and some of the faculty as well, and stepping foot in here again, it's certainly been an incredibly emotional journey already, and I haven't even started. So good afternoon, everybody. A heartfelt thank you to Chaplain Cooper Nelson, President Paxson, all of the incredible participants and performers today. Wow, this has really been amazing. All of the families and friends that are watching well outside of these walls. And most importantly, to the graduates of the class of 2024. Today is your day. This is our opportunity to celebrate you and your loved ones, to reflect on your journey, to honor the immense amount of work you have put in and all that you have accomplished in the last 4 years here at Brown. Tomorrow, you will walk through the Van Wickle gates. So will I. It's my 25th reunion. I'm excited. Are you excited? It's truly an honor, and honestly, a bit of a shock, to be standing before you here today, in the shadow of figures like Madeleine Albright, the notorious RBG, the Dalai Lama, or even John Krasinski. People often ask if I was scared on the launch pad, perched on a giant stick of dynamite, or during my spacewalks, gazing into the void and vast blackness of the vacuum of space through a thin plastic visor. It was years of training that gave me the confidence in those moments, as well as the critical support of our ground teams, ensuring our safety every step of the way. And so I wasn't scared in space, at least compared to the terror of standing here before you today, hoping that I might convey at least an ounce of wisdom compared to the heavyweights that have stood here before me. This is where I say, Houston, a little help, please. I recall that bit of fear, or at least a sense of unknown territory, or maybe just intimidation, when I arrived here at Brown in 1995. I grew up in a small town in northern Maine as a first-generation American. My family had no knowledge of the Ivy League, let alone prep schools or advanced placement exams. Yet somehow, a conversation with one of my father's colleagues at our small-town hospital, a female physician that had gone to Brown, led to an alumni interview and my application. At the time, I didn't realize at all what this meant, but it seemed worth submitting that application, laboriously written on a typewriter. As you might imagine, when I arrived at Brown, it was a bit of a shock to me to discover that many of my classmates had their sights, or at least perhaps their parents' sights, set on Brown from the time they were in elementary school, had attended all the right prep schools, and read all the appropriate literature. How could my education at Caribou High School contend with any of that? Perhaps that was my very first early taste of imposter syndrome, or from an alternative point of view, perhaps the first great example of the benefits that can be unleashed when you begin to wander outside of your comfort zone. As I look around this gorgeous church, my thoughts are filled with the countless memories that I formed here as an undergraduate at Brown. 4 unforgettable years full of trips to the Sili. I remember checking my first email account, Eudora Pro, at the computers on the 2nd floor. Weekend study trips to my special nook in the rock, my very first flying lessons with the Brown Flying Club, concerts with the Brown Wind Symphony, and playing in pit bands for university musicals. Late night snacks at the Silver Truck. Is that still around? No. Disco Inferno at Sigma Chi. Okay. To this day, I still claim that every party should have a costume theme. And the Underground. I mean, coffee is great, but funk nights at the Underground, when it was formerly a bar, were truly epic. I'm also very proud to mention that Brown and NASA share a history that extends to present day. I'm sure some of you took Rocks for Jocks, or at least knew of this moniker for planetary science professor Jim Head's introductory planetary geology course. Though some students told me this morning it's a different professor now. I'm sure the legacy lives on. If you did, you're likely aware that Professor Head has had an intimate connection with NASA throughout his career. Jim was one of the scientists that taught the Apollo astronauts which rocks they should pick up on their missions to the moon. the first time that human footprints graced another planetary body. Yes, as in Neil, Buzz, that's not the rock we're looking for. Jim trains astronauts, including me and my classmates, on lunar geology to this day. Since his work with Apollo, several of the 12 humans that we can call moonwalkers have also walked these very same halls here at Brown. Neil Armstrong, the first human to set foot on the moon, received an honorary degree from Brown in 1979. Apollo astronauts Dave Scott and John Young followed in his footsteps, both on the moon and on College Hill. Brown has produced and honored NASA administrators and associate administrators, and at my very own commencement in 1999, John Glenn, the first American to orbit our planet, received an honorary degree. I was privileged to share some special time with him and his wife, thanks to none other than Jim. The stars were aligning. I was mingling with astronauts, graduating from Brown with my family there, my parents proudly holding up a computer-printed banner that read, "Congrats, Space Girl," on dot matrix printer paper, the kind with the perforated edges you had to tear off. This is all just to say, be excited, identify your passion, and put all you have into it. Hard work, perseverance, and a bit of luck are your implements. And yes, a Brown degree certainly shouldn't hurt. Thinking about the educators, pioneers, and explorers that paved the way for me, I want to ask all of you who share the same excitement and intrigue I carried through those gates 25 years ago. Who among you will venture into space? Who among you will fulfill your version of this and your vision? If a small-town girl like me can do it, there is no obstacle too tall for you. In the classrooms and laboratories here at Brown, I embarked upon my very first scientific experiments, learning how to think critically, how to form a hypothesis, and the logistics involved with testing it. My senior year honors thesis was conducted in Herman Vandenberg's laboratory at the Miriam Hospital. This lab produced bioartificial muscles that had flown on the space shuttle and are now used for gene therapy. How could I resist? Biology and space all rolled into one. During my undergraduate research, one of my mentors in the lab, Peter Lee, was an MD, PhD student that shared my fascination with space. His guidance and advice stimulated my decision to attend the International Space University for a master's degree and was pivotal in shaping the foundation of my career as a life scientist. That research started in 1998. Can you believe that 22 years later, I found myself as an astronaut on the International Space Station conducting one of Peter's experiments on engineered heart tissue nonetheless, a technology that certainly was influenced by our shared history together in Herman's lab at Brown. I don't think you can get any more full circle than that. This is a profound example to me of how much more meaningful everything in life is when it has that personal connection. An experience is worth so much more when it is a shared one. I also vividly recall not being sciencey and simply relaxing in the New England sunshine on the Main Green, chatting with friends, weekend trips to hike in the White Mountains, and learning to scuba dive in Jamestown. I realized in those moments how incredibly fortunate we are to be in this place, and how this access to nature was and still is so crucial to my mental health and well-being. My mother always says, "Nothing beats nature." As usual, she is right. To pass on more of her wisdom, I will say this: remember to make time for yourselves, for the things and the people that you care about, to appreciate the beauty around you, and strive to protect that balance that truly is essential to your happiness and your positive impact on the world. Perhaps the most noteworthy perk of being an astronaut is the breathtaking view that we are so fortunate to have, the opportunity to gaze down at our planet. Contours and shadows of mountain peaks along their rugged spines, mouths of rivers spilling their watercolor swirls into coastal currents, swaths of land painted red with clay, swirling ice floes on frozen seas, brilliant bands of red, yellow, and orange as the sun sets and the darkness of space takes over every 45 minutes. Wild shapes, colors, and textures of sand dunes stretching from sea to sea, vast stretches of forest, and of course the human punctuation of agriculture and deforestation. There, from the vantage point of the International Space Station, 250 miles above the Earth's surface, we astronauts have the sustained privilege of taking it all in, passing over the most disparate of extreme climate zones and seasons, one 90-minute orbit at a time. If that observation wasn't enough, you are floating 24 hours a day, traversing the globe at 5 miles per second. As I experienced this, knowing that every person I've ever met, every place I've ever been, every experience I've ever had is down there below, to me, it often felt surreal. As silly as it sounds, it often felt as if I were on a movie set. But it still seemed impossible to know that I was there, even though I understood all of the physics behind it. Gazing down at Mother Nature's extraordinary palette, the eye is drawn to the thin, tenuous band of an atmosphere surrounding it. From the space station, the human eye can even detect the subtle gradient of blues as the atmosphere thins with altitude, fading ever too quickly into the blackness of space. This single, diffuse layer is key to sustaining all life on this planet. When one has the privilege to witness this from above, it is immediately apparent that not only is it breathtaking, it is utterly unique and absolutely fragile. We must do all we can to protect it. Thankfully, for all residents of planet Earth, your generation seems to inherently have the right attitude about taking care of and protecting this planet. Whether it is one of your priorities or not, however, you are dealing with the consequences of all those before you. It is our duty as the temporary inhabitants of this brilliant blue oasis in our solar system to cherish and to protect it. It is our mindful responsibility. And so I challenge you to identify concrete actions that you can personally undertake to advance a more sustainable manner of living. Even your small choices matter. Reduce your single-use packaging. Utilize clean energy when possible. Minimize food waste, and in general, pay attention to your consumer impacts. Remembering my mother's words, nothing beats nature. So get involved in an environmental effort in your community. Plant a native species habitat. Build spaces for the birds, bees, and butterflies, and most importantly, make our democracy work. Exercise your right to vote and hope that we can help shape a healthy, just world for our children's children's children. I know that you will cherish your memories here in idyllic New England. Take a moment to reflect on some of them now. Sear them into your memory with the intensity of the sunshine on a hot summer Providence day, like this one, the kind that makes you crave Adele's lemonade. I am certain that the bonds you have formed here with your roommates, classmates, professors, and friends will last a lifetime. During such an incredibly formative period of your life, a first foray of independence, for some, after taking flight from the safety of the family nest, we have the unique opportunity to share our meanderings with others along that common, at times vulnerable journey. This lends itself toward an incredibly special, irreplaceable bond. This weekend marks 25 years since I sat where you're sitting today. Many of my closest friends are also here this weekend, celebrating our reunion, and it makes me so happy to report that even 2.5 decades later, the relationships I formed here on this campus remain among the most important in my life. I forged friendships that would last a lifetime and ultimately shape the person I would become. Thanks to the shared space dormitories, afternoons lounging on the sunny quad, late night venues where we perfected our signature dance moves at those beloved theme parties. Look around at your peers and your friends. Imagine what diverse and promising journeys you will bear witness to, that you will help shape by lending an ear, a partner to celebrate with, a shoulder to cry on. I promise you, these bonds are even stronger than the ones you were supposed to memorize in organic chemistry class. But be warned, your science jokes likely will not improve over time. As I navigated my academic path in graduate school, striving to come up with novel research proposals, navigating through the complexities of carrying out experiments, and balancing the demands of coursework in everyday life, I also became intimately familiar with the concept of imposter syndrome. Attributing successes to luck, I found myself at times thinking, I'm really not that smart, I just work hard. I heard my classmates sharing similar thoughts, constantly justifying or explaining our achievements in ways that diminished our authentic capabilities. Recognizing this was enlightening, and then incredibly frustrating to realize that I couldn't just cast those thoughts aside. I felt that, although things were working out for me as I progressed through my research, surely it would catch up to me, and eventually my good luck streak would end. I would be exposed as someone who didn't have what it takes to be a scientist. I acknowledged that I was adept at executing the task at hand, but was threatened by the thought that there was so much more to being a successful researcher. I didn't think that I had the sort of mind that would consistently generate innovative ideas, not to mention ones reasonable enough to obtain funding. At some point, surely I'd be viewed as a fraud. It helped me to understand these issues, to read about them, to talk about them with my classmates, and to cast aside the notion that the problem was unique to me. Despite increased awareness of the cultural and societal disparities involved, such pervasive thoughts of imposter syndrome still hold back many, especially in the technical fields. It is up to all of us to recognize these kinds of inequities and to have the courage to reach out and stand up for each other. These were formative years for me as an academic and as a fellow human being. One lesson in particular that stays with me is understanding the value of mentorship. I had struck gold with my mentors, starting here with Herman and Peter and Jim, and graduate advisors, experts at the top of our field that cared about not only my research, but also about me as a person. With this guidance and support, I could maintain the courage and drive to continue and more fully realize the vitality and importance of a work-life balance. When I was about to complete grad school, I experienced a moment of clarity. I had been consumed by every aspect of designing and carrying out research projects on multiple subjects across disparate environments. Autumns into winters were spent in the Antarctic, patiently awaiting a curious group of emperor penguins to escort back to our research site. Springtime meant approaching elephant seals basking on the beaches of Northern California, administering the necessary sedatives and avoiding their menacing jaws until we could do our work. Temporarily mounting our instruments on the backs of these consummate divers, we recorded their heart rates and levels of oxygen in their blood. Finally, the long-awaited answers to my burning questions were within reach. And as I stood there, ready to defend my doctoral dissertation, perusing my final PowerPoint slides in front of a crowded lecture hall, I looked out at the audience, at my advisors, mentors, classmates, family, and friends, and I thought, wow, look at this. I absolutely earned this degree. I'm not an imposter. We are not imposters. I hope that all of you graduates here today experience your own revelations of accomplishment, pride, and deserved recognition. As for your struggles along the way, your journey during these last 4 years is certainly unique. And I was right there with you in 2020. Perhaps from a slightly different altitude, my space capsule had launched from a COVID-free world in September of 2019 and returned to a completely different planet in April of 2020. Talk about the ultimate quarantine. I know that many of you missed out on celebratory moments like high school graduations, and you didn't even get a chance to come to campus for your first semester. Virtual classes, students in hotel rooms across the city, your transition to your first adventures away from home was a rocky one. With your last 4 years here at Brown, you are no stranger to the regional and global challenges that we humans face when we attempt to, or perhaps struggle to, coexist with each other. There is no magic solution for this, but I can tell you that looking down on the planet from above is a unique and deeply moving experience that speaks directly to unity and coexistence. Gazing down at the continuous land masses of the continents and the swirling blue of the oceans, it was clear to me that everything on our planet is absolutely and fundamentally interconnected. We simply do not see borders from space. These are human constructs. If each human could see this for themselves, I do believe that it would be truly transformative for each individual and for our civilization. From above, we simply appear as one. one human species together here on this one fragile planet that we call home. For any challenge that we face here on Earth, we must embrace that we are all in this together. Despite the collective challenges we face and the individual ones that have been hurled at you throughout your time here at Brown, you are here. You made it. Congratulations. Remember to find what it is that you are passionate about in this world. Make it your North Star. Cultivate it into a positive, purposeful passion. Identify what work needs to be done, and take advantage of your natural talents. The possibilities are truly endless when we allow our authentic selves to shine through and fortify our dreams with determination. Continue finding those mentors who inspire and guide you, and don't forget to pay it forward and be one too. There is always someone at an earlier phase of life, someone who can benefit from your experience, insights, and guidance. These mentors can guide you when it's time to take some risks, push you slightly outside of your comfort zone, and perhaps gift you one of life's most important lessons through failure. I've certainly experienced failure of my own. Perhaps one of my most deeply felt failures occurred just before defending my PhD, after I had interviewed to be an astronaut with NASA. When my phone rang with a Houston number, I knew it was the call. It came while I was giving some family and friends a tour at SeaWorld, describing the function of the soft, lipid-rich melon of the beluga whale and the robust vibrissae of the enormous male walrus. Just another average day with charismatic megafauna. Sunny Williams, an experienced astronaut whom I knew from my previous days at NASA, was on the line. "Jessica," she said, "you did a great job." I held my breath, unable to move. "But unfortunately, you weren't selected this time." Fast forward 4 years, and I was in the final round of the astronaut selection once again. I subconsciously expected the same outcome. I was sitting in my office, just nearby at the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, when that Houston area code popped up on my phone again. It was the voice of Janet Kavandi, head of this time's astronaut selection board. "Jessica," she said, sounding like she was about to deliver bad news. "Turns out the second time is a charm." After failing to be selected the first time, there were moments when I considered not applying again, perhaps as an effort to protect myself, that maybe it wasn't worth the risk of putting myself out there again and dealing with the mental anguish of the rigorous selection process. But of course, if I hadn't, I wouldn't be sharing this story with you today. It is always worth making that leap that scares you. It is always worth following your passion and committing to all of the hard work along the way. And of course, what's worth the most is the opportunity to lift up others along your journey. 20 years after marching through the Van Wickle gates, I arrived to my microgravity apartment. The International Space Station hatch was flung open, and I floated in. With little grace and a bit awkwardly, as I learned how to navigate through the 3D volumetric space. This complete physical immersion is simply extraordinary, endlessly channeling one's 5-year-old self. Simply put, everything is more fun while floating. The smile on my face at that moment, as I've seen on video and even relived in immersive 360 virtual reality, was one of elation, complete and utter satisfaction and awe. Those close to me have described it as simply pure joy. I was finally home. I've witnessed that look since in the expression and smile on the face of my baby girl over the last 16 months of her new life. Pure, innocent, unbridled joy. Nothing makes me feel more warm and complete inside. I can understand now what my mother must have felt when she watched me reach space, a dream she had heard me talk about since I was 5 years old. Most of you have families here this weekend, and I know that they are feeling that same level of joy, happiness, and pride for you on your graduation. And it turns out that when I finally reached low Earth orbit, all of you here at Brown were right up there with me. These items from Brown accompanied me on my journey, and now they have made their way back here. This adventure This exploration is not mine alone. It is for all of us and for all of humanity. We'll make sure that everybody sees these pictures of these items floating up in the cupola with the Earth behind, representing everybody here throughout the centuries of Brown graduates. Congratulations, graduates. Wishing you the best of luck on your journey as you set off to discover your own version of home, wherever that place may be. Ad Astra Brunonians, fly high.